The world opens in silence. A street after rain. A child's shoe left on the steps. A candle flickers beside a hospital bed. Everywhere, the same question whispers through the noise of living. If there is a good and powerful God, why does the world suffer? This question is older than philosophy itself. It hides in every prayer, in every cry for meaning. It waits behind our smiles, watching as we pretend not to hear it. People have given it many names. Philosophers call it the problem of evil. Poets call it heartbreak. But it is one thing, the shock that goodness and pain share the same sky. Long before us, a man named Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz faced that question. He lived in a Europe torn by war and disease. He saw kings rise, cities burn, and faith fracture into doubt. Yet through all of it, he believed something extraordinary. He said, "This world, with all its sorrow, is still the best of all possible worlds." At first it sounds absurd. How could a world filled with hunger, betrayal, and grief be the best? How could a wise God choose this when so many gentler worlds seem possible? But Leibniz was not blind. He saw pain clearly. He just refused to believe it was meaningless. He imagined God not as a careless ruler, but as a divine architect. Every law of nature, every heartbeat, every lost bar of a structure too vast for any single mind to see. He believed reason itself was holy, that creation, even in its chaos, followed a pattern deeper than tragedy. Still, the heart resists. The mind protests. If this is the best world, what does the worst look like? Look at war. Look at children lost before they grow. Look at the innocent crushed by the greed of the strong. Surely, no amount of hidden harmony can justify that. And yet, Leibniz asked us to look again, not to deny evil, but to ask what kind of world could even make goodness possible. He said the question itself hides the clue. If we can name evil, it means we know good. If we know good, it means reality contains standards that do not come from chaos. So the question, painful as it is, already points toward order. Leibniz believed creation had limits, not limits on God's power, but limits of logic itself. Even God cannot make a circle with corners. Even God cannot make freedom exist without the risk of misuse. He compared creation to a composer writing under rules. The composer cannot play every note at once. Harmony requires contrast. So does life. Some goods exist only if certain dangers are real. Courage needs fear. Forgiveness needs wrongdoing. Growth needs loss. Take away the risk, and those goods disappear. Perhaps. Leibniz said, the best world is not the one without pain, but the one where pain makes goodness possible. He called his explanation theodicy, the defense of divine goodness in the face of evil. He never said this world was perfect. He said it was complete, a world balanced between freedom and law, reason and love. The ideas spread, and so did misunderstanding. Many heard only the optimism, not the reasoning. They thought Leibniz believed everything was fine as it was, but he never said that. He believed progress mattered, compassion mattered, justice mattered, because they are the ways goodness unfolds inside imperfection. To him, creation was like a vast tapestry seen from behind. From our side, we see only knots and dark threads. From the front, Seen by God, every twist joins a greater picture. When we suffer, we live on the backside of that tapestry. We see chaos. We forget the pattern could be real. There is a quiet strength in his view. He does not ask us to enjoy pain. He asks us to trust that pain is not the final word. That the story of existence includes chapters we have not yet read. Many have mocked that faith. Voltaire would later turn it into satire. He wrote Candide, a tale where every tragedy is excused by foolish optimism. People laughed at Leibniz's idea for centuries after that. But laughter does not erase a question. What if Leibniz was not naive? What if he was trying to protect meaning itself from despair? He believed the universe follows the principle of sufficient reason, that nothing happens without a reason, even when the reason is beyond us. Not everything is good in itself, but every event connects to a greater good, that reason would reveal if we could see far enough. Imagine a vast equation. Every term, every variable, balances in a harmony we cannot solve. We see fragments. We see our small corner of the sum. The full pattern belongs to a mind greater than ours. To live with that awareness is not blind faith. It is humility before mystery. It is the courage to say, I do not understand, but I believe there is understanding. Still, the question returns. Why must goodness depend on such a painful process? Why could God not choose a world where we learn without loss? Leibniz's answer was quiet. Maybe such a world is impossible not because God lacks power, but because some truths can exist only through contrast. Light can be defined only when darkness is possible. Freedom means choice. Choice means the chance to wound. A world without that would not be a moral world at all. He did not mean every act of cruelty was planned. He meant that freedom itself is part of the design, and with it comes the burden of consequence. So he trusted that even what we ruin can still be woven into a greater harmony. The universe, he thought, bends toward balance slowly, painfully, but inevitably, when we see evil, we see a note out of tune. But to the composer, the discord belongs to a larger movement that ends in resolution. Leibniz looked at the sky and saw law. He looked at the human heart and saw longing. He believed both were evidence of purpose. He wrote, reality is the expression of a perfect mind through imperfect means. And he believed that mind, what we call God, chose this world not by accident, but by love. It is tempting to dismiss that faith, to point to the ruins of history and say, there is no plan. But even in that defiance, we reveal the same hunger for meaning that haunted Leibniz. If the world were truly meaningless, we would not call it unjust, we would call it empty. Our protest against suffering is proof that we believe, somewhere, goodness should exist. Leibniz saw that protest as a clue, not a contradiction. Perhaps the best world is not comfortable, but fertile, capable of growing souls that can love, reason, forgive, and rebuild. He once wrote that every human mind is a mirror of the universe. If that is true, then our grief and our wonder both reflect the same divine logic. Every tear, every act of kindness, every discovery all threads in one living design. We do not have to understand it to belong to it. We only have to keep asking. The question, because asking, is part of what makes us human. The world will keep suffering, but so long as we keep searching for meaning, the light remains. And maybe that is what it means when we say, this is the best possible world. Not that it is painless, but that within it goodness refuses to die. Even in darkness it learns to shine. He was born where borders shifted like weather. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz grew up in a Europe that could not rest. Religious battles, scarred cities, plague thinned the brave and the afraid alike. Kings argued with scholars. Scholars argued with nature. Every map looked temporary. He walked into that world with a book under each arm. His father died when he was young. A library became his shelter. Shelves did not shout. They offered questions in orderly rows. He learned Latin before most. Boys learned work. He took comfort in patterns. Patterns promised that chaos could be read. He studied law. He studied theology. He studied mathematics because numbers did not take sides. He studied history because people always did. He wrote quickly, yet he listened longer. He believed that truth formed a single river, even when our minds drank from different streams. Europe shook. States hardened their borders. Churches hardened their words. Leibniz did something unusual. He tried to build bridges. He traveled as a diplomat. He served princes and electors, but he spoke to them as a patient teacher speaks to an eager child. He asked Protestants and Catholics to consider peace. He wrote letters to scientists across the continent. He believed correspondence could tame distance. He believed gentleness could tame pride. He searched for a universal language of thought. He called it a character of reason, not symbols for show, but signs that carried logic inside them. If we could compute truth, he said, we would argue less and understand more. Let us calculate, he dreamed, and let humility follow the result. He found the same hunger in mathematics. He created a new way to capture change. He wrote with small signs that could hold vast motion, dx, dy, integral. He believed the world, moved by tiny steps that reason could follow. To him, calculus was not just technique. It was a window into the grammar of nature. Others saw a tool. He saw a music of infinites. Across the channel, Isaac Newton worked toward the same heights. History later argued over who arrived first. Debates stormed like weather once again. Leibniz did not love the storm. He loved the discovery. He loved that two distant minds could touch the same truth. He trusted that truth was generous like that. He served as a librarian in Hanover. Do not let the word fool you. The post gave him a kingdom of paper. He ordered knowledge like a gardener orders a wild field. He wrote histories for his patrons. He built mechanical calculators with gears that mimicked thought. He imagined mines, canals, and academies. He drafted plans for academies in Berlin and St. Petersburg. Everywhere he went, he asked the same question. How can order grow from conflict? Nights were for metaphysics. He stared into silence until ideas found shape. He asked why there is something rather than nothing. He answered with a calm that feels like prayer, because a perfect mind prefers being to emptiness and chooses the richest possible version of it. Not rich in gold, rich in kinds of goodness. Rich in minds that can love and learn. He held to a principle that anchored him. Nothing happens without a reason why it is so and not otherwise. The principle did not make life easy. It made life intelligible. If the world exists, there is a reason. If God is wise, The reason is worthy. If the reason is worthy, the whole must exceed the pain of its parts. He lived among jeers and treaties and quarrels. He saw how pride fractures the best plans. He watched rulers chase short victories and lose long goods. So he looked deeper than power. He searched for first truths. He believed logic and love were not rivals. He believed they were two names for the same light. He imagined reality as layered order. Nature followed lawful paths. Souls followed inward laws of perception and desire. Societies followed laws of justice, often broken, never erased. He thought harmony could span these levels without confusion. Not a forced harmony, but a prearranged fitness. Like different instruments playing one score they never see, yet each part completes the others. He did not build this view to escape history. He built it because history crushed people he loved. He wrote to comfort without lying. He wrote to steady without dulling pain. His letters show a careful warmth. He was a mind, yes, but also a man who knew what grief does to a room. He trusted that freedom mattered. He spent years asking how freedom could live inside divine wisdom. If God knows, are we puppets? He refused that picture. He pictured God as choosing a world story where our choices are truly ours, yet foreseen within a wisdom that wastes nothing. A difficult view, but he preferred difficulty to despair. Friends teased him for optimism. Enemies mocked him for it. They heard, all is well, when he meant something harder. All is woven. The weaving hurts, but the design holds. He made mistakes. He reached too far in some schemes. He trusted patrons who forgot him. He died with projects unfinished, papers piled in rooms, and a reputation clouded by the calculus quarrel. For a time, he seemed to vanish into footnotes, but his ideas did not vanish. They kept walking. They visited mathematicians, logicians, engineers, theologians, and poets who needed reason that could carry hope. They found new homes in the study of language and machines. They whispered to those who dreamed of computers, where logic becomes action, and symbols build worlds. He once walked the heart's mountains to inspect mines. He studied pumps and slopes, learning how water could drown a promise. He sketched new machines to save the miners. Some plans failed. He learned from the failure. He believed that ideas must touch the ground or they're only decoration. He designed a stepped calculator, the stepped reckoner, to turn thought into motion by brass and wheel. In those stubborn teeth of metal, he saw a prophecy. One day, machines would help us think. He explored binary numbers, speaking in ones and zeros, long before electricity learned their song. He smiled to see that emptiness and stroke could build any number, that simplicity could carry endless complexity. He dreamed of an encyclopedia that never slept, a network of facts and proofs that anyone could search. He wrote proposals for rulers who did not always understand. Still he tried. He believed knowledge should not hoard itself. It should serve the common good. He met princesses who loved learning, especially Sophia and Sophia Charlotte, and he spoke to them with the same respect he gave to scholars. He walked gardens and discussed metaphysics beside fountains. He found in their questions a rare courage. They gave him patience when politics did not. In the end, honor failed him. When he died, few mourned in public. Some patrons, had turned away. Court ceremony passed without his name. He left behind trunks of papers, a treasury waiting for hands that cared. History took time to open them. Later readers found there a map of possible futures. They found hints of logic that would become computer science. They found a style of thinking that refuses to choose between precision and mercy. So when we speak of a world ordered by love and reason, we are not reciting a hey slogan. We are remembering a life spent building proofs and bridges, a life that believed understanding is a kind of care, a life that asked leaders to be gardeners of human flourishing. Hold that image as the candle finally goes dark. Not a man who escaped the troubles of his age, but a man who answered them with patient craft. He left us a way to work, clear eyes, open hands, and hope that does the labor. He was born where borders changed with the wind. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz grew up in uneasy years. Europe argued with itself and with the sky. Faith broke into factions that guarded bitter memories. Plague moved through towns like a rumor with teeth. Kings traded letters and threats. Scholars hunted patterns inside the noise. He entered that world with wide eyes and a quiet hunger. His father died early. A library became a shelter and a guide. Shelves held their peace and offered a path. He learned Latin before most boys learned trade. He read history for the long view of suffering. He studied law to see how minds bind conflict. He studied mathematics to feel the calm of order. He studied theology to ask whether order loved us back. He learned to think in layers. He sensed that events had roots and secret joints. He felt that reason could turn chaos into structure, not by force, by patient care. He walked into universities like a pilgrim enters a cathedral, not to posture, to listen. He copied the cadence of old Latin prose. He gathered small claims and made them speak. He trained a habit that would anchor his life. Nothing without a reason. No claim without warrant. The continent shook itself awake after war. Princes needed counselors who could argue without rage. Leibniz learnt the art. He became a diplomat with a scholar's heart. He wrote letters that crossed empires. He promised calm when tempers tore. He asked Protestants and Catholics to breathe. He searched for grounds they held in common. He believed understanding could outrun pride. He wanted a language that could tame confusion. He dreamed of a character of reason, a calculus of thought that would settle disputes. Not with swords, with symbols anyone could follow. Let us calculate, he said. Let the answer teach us to bow. He built machines that could lend a hand to the mind. He shaped brass and wheel into a stepped reckoner. He loved the stubborn truth of metal. He loved that a gear holds its argument. His fingers black with oil made ideas move. He smiled at the promise behind the craft. Someday thoughts would travel by mechanism. He found music in change itself rates. Slopes, sums that grow by tiny steps. He wrote a new way to speak those. Motions, he named small differences with neat signs. dx, dy. He curved space into sense with the long stroke of integral. He felt he had touched the grammar of nature, not just a trick for engineers, a key to the world's inner rhythm. Across the channel, Newton climbed the same mountain. History still argues about who reached the ridge first. Leibniz disliked that quarrel. Truth did not need a crown. Two minds could touch the same light from different paths. The light would not mind. Called life pulled him into Hanover. The word librarian hides the scale of the task. He took custody of a kingdom of paper. He tamed chaos with catalogues and summaries. He drafted histories that made patrons feel ancient and secure. He designed waterways and mines. He drew plans for academies that would train a gentler power. Berlin listened. So did St. Petersburg. Sometimes rulers kept their promises. Often they did not. He met Sophia and Sophia Schala. They loved ideas and asked hard questions with a steady gaze. He answered with patience and warmth. He did not flatter. He invited them into the work. Gardens became classrooms. Walks became seminars on being and justice. He found courage in their curiosity. His letters crossed mountains. He corresponded with scientists and ministers and monks. He asked for reports on tides and minerals and words. He sent designs for pumps and tax codes and libraries. He tried to bind Europe with paper bridges. He thought courtesies could rescue truth from vanity. Night made room for first principles. He faced the oldest question with steady breath. Why is there something rather than nothing? Because a perfect mind prefers being to emptiness, he wrote, and chooses a world rich in possibilities of good, not a world of soft comforts, a world fertile in meaning. He held to a rule that became his compass. For every fact, a reason why it is so. If the world exists, it exists for a reason. If God is wise, the reason is worthy. If the reason is worthy, the whole must exceed the pain of its parts. He did not claim to see the whole. He claimed the whole was there. He felt the pull of freedom. He knew we'd choose and also belonged to patterns. He would not trade freedom for neat equations. He imagined God choosing a story in which our choices are real, foreknown but not forced, seen but not scripted, a hard thought, yet kinder than a world of puppets. He spoke often of harmony, not a soft word, a strict art. Different lines can meet without collision. Different goods can coexist without theft. He imagined creation as lines of melody written to fit, no instrument. Here's the whole score, yet the music holds. He drew comfort from the lawfulness of nature. He saw law as a gift, not a prison. Law gives promise. Promise gives science its courage. What happens here and now can teach us there and then. Repeatable order is grace for finite minds. His mind moved toward synthesis. He hated false fights where both sides were partly right. He believed dispute. Hide a third view that honors what is best in both. So he looked for bridges between atom and soul, between number and mercy, between church and church, between chord and conscience. He also failed. He chased grand projects beyond the patience of patrons. He sent proposals to wide for narrow budgets. He trusted promises from men who counted only today. He watched doors close without ceremony. He kept writing anyway. He thought time nurses good seeds. He suffered neglect at the end. His name dimmed in halls, he once advised. He died without honors fit for his labor. Trunks of papers waited like sealed gardens. Readers came late and found the gates. What they saw changed their own plans. They found notes on a number system, built of yes and no, 1 and 0 could build any count. Simplicity could host infinity. He had seen the bones of future machines. They found a plan for a living encyclopedia. A book that never ended. A place where knowledge could answer to search. Many dismissed it as dreamful. Then centuries worked to make it ordinary. They found a spirit behind the papers. A man who believed thought is a form of care. He wrote as, if clarity could bless. He wanted rulers to govern like gardeners. He wanted scholars to heal. He wanted citizens to reason without scorn. He knew that optimism is easy when you are blind. He was not blind. He saw cities die and children buried. He still believed the universe kept faith with order. He still believed the mind could be trained to hope with discipline. He did not confuse order with quiet. He knew reform makes noise. He praised argument when it sought the common good. He rejected cruelty dressed as zeal. He asked opponents to imagine they might be wrong. He asked allies to imagine they might be harsh. He loved thought experiments. That humbled pride. What if our vantage is too small, he asked. What if the part we hate becomes a cause for good elsewhere? What if the whole uses our losses to grow new strengths we cannot yet name? Not to excuse evil, to resist despair. He prized gentleness. He wrote to a friend that patience extends the reach of truth. Harshness shortens it. He told himself to prefer precise mercy over loud wit. He did not always succeed. He tried again. He believed in progress, but not in arrogance. He did not think history guaranteed wisdom. He thought wisdom must be chosen, must be practiced, must be taught by example and law. He wanted a Europe less drunk on triumph. He wanted victory measured in fewer widows. He wanted schools that trained, heart as well as hands. He wanted power to kneel before reason and charity. He took long walks after rain, streets where lamps made small circles of trust. He listened to the city and heard a low request. Make us livable, not merely strong. Make us decent, not merely clever. He would have smiled at a modern Labe. He would have wept at a modern war. He would have urged us to write more letters and fewer insults, to fix what we can fix, to measure twice, to honor dissent that argues in good faith, to leave a clean desk and a kind note. His legacy is not only in theorems or machines. It is a way to hold mind and heart together, honor reasons, honor people, keep the world legible without sanding off its rough mercy. He believed God calculates, without cruelty. He believed creation sings in ratios and relations. He believed the best goods are relational and learned. He believed freedom is costly and sacred. He never stopped seeking a reconciled vision, a view in which faith, science, and politics exchange gifts. A view that calls rulers to wisdom and citizens to patience. A view that lets grief speak and still claims meaning. He teaches a style rather than a slogan. Move carefully. Argue cleanly. Repair what pride has broken. Plan for the long future. Hope without lying. Think without sneer. Love without panic. If you look for a single thread in his life, find this one. Order is not the enemy of mercy. Order is mercy extended across time. The task is to see it and join it. He left rooms full of paper and a world still learning his language. We owe him debts we pay by using them well. Every time a symbol does the work of a shout, we remember him. Every time a design makes life kinder, we remember him. Every time patience saves a marriage or a border, we remember him. He walked among engines and archives as if both were altars. He offered his days like a craftsman offers a tool to a neighbor. Use this, build with this, fix with this. Do not boast, do not despair. He believed reason could be devotion. He believed love could be precise. He believed the mind, trained by care, could help a broken age find balance. He believed, at last, that nothing is wasted in a wise universe. Even the pages we lose teach the hands that turn the rest. Even the dark hours become part of morning. A world full of pain still begged to make sense. Leibniz believed sense could be found, not imposed, but reasoned. He saw thought itself as sacred. If the mind is made by God, then to think clearly is a kind of prayer. He began with a rule that would shape his life. Nothing happens without a reason. Every truth must answer the question, why this and not something else? It sounds simple. It builds everything. The air, the stars, the story of each soul each holds a reason, even if we do not see it. Leibniz looked around and saw confusion. He saw storms, wars, accidents, illness. He refused to believe these were random. He said reality is not a scatter of chance. It is a structure, a clockwork built by a perfect mind. Not perfect in stillness, but perfect in harmony. He imagined God before creation, a mind infinite in power and imagination. Every possible world already alive in that mind. Endless combinations of laws, choices, and stories. Worlds where mountains never form. Worlds where freedom never costs. Worlds without laughter because nothing ever goes wrong. From that vast library of possible worlds, God chooses one, the one that achieves the greatest balance of good. This world. The world we inhabit to most ears. That sounds bold or naive, but to Leibniz, it was pure reason. He said perfection is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of order. And order does not mean control, it means purpose. He imagined God as a composer, every law of nature, every human choice, every birth and death notes in a cosmic song. Some are high and bright, some are low and harsh. Taken alone, they sting. Together, they form harmony. And harmony, not silence, is what makes beauty eternal. This vision did not erase suffering. It located it. Each event fits somewhere in a whole we cannot see. We live inside the movement. We cannot yet hear the ending. He wrote that God acts according to wisdom, not whim. A perfect being cannot do things without cause. Power without reason would be chaos. Goodness without reason would be blind. Wisdom binds both together. God does what makes sense in the fullest, deepest way possible. Leibniz called this the principle of sufficient reason. To him it was not abstract, it was moral. It meant the universe is not absurd. It meant the story of everything is justified by understanding, not luck. Even when we cannot follow the thread exists. He believed that reason itself was a sign of divine mercy. It lets us share, in small ways, the same light that guides creation. When we think well, we participate in that light. When we love truth, we echo the love that made the world. He used mathematics to mirror his faith. In numbers, he saw a universe that never contradicts itself. 2 plus 2 will always make 4, not because we decree it, but because it cannot be otherwise. That same clarity, he thought, runs beneath existence. The rules of thought and the rules of being must match, because both come from one mind. He looked at nature and saw lawfulness. He looked at himself and saw awareness. He looked at both and saw a bridge. The bridge was reason, the same logic. That shapes a falling apple, shapes the movement of thought. For him, this was not coincidence, it was confirmation. Creation is intelligible because it was made by intelligence. He trusted that if God chose this world, there must be a reason why this one is best. Not best for each moment, but best in the full design. If there is evil, it is allowed only because it serves a higher good that could not exist without it. Like shadow helping light to be seen, like discord teaching the ear to crave resolution, like heartbreak opening space for compassion. He did not speak from comfort. He lived through years of disease, famine, and fear. He saw death without glory. He saw the price of ignorance and greed, yet his faith in divine logic did not break. He thought understanding was a duty, not a decoration. He warned against lazy optimism. To say everything is fine is false. To say everything can find its place in meaning is faith. The first looks away, the second looks through. His confidence in logic drew both praise and anger. To the devout, it made God sound too human, too rational. To the skeptics, it made faith sound too clever, too tidy. Leibniz stood between them, refusing to abandon either side. He said faith without reason is superstition, and reason without faith is arrogance. He wrote that the universe is full of necessary connections. The sun rises not because God commands it each morning, but because his command is written into nature itself. Law is love expressed in permanence. A steady God makes a steady world. That steadiness is grace for creatures who must learn slowly. In his vision, miracles are not breaks in law. They are rare moments where the deeper law reveals itself more clearly. Everything remains part of one system, whole and alive. He believed this logic leads to trust. If reality is built on reason, despair becomes premature. We may hurt, but we are not abandoned. We may not know why, but there is a why. He compared creation to geometry. Every figure must obey its axioms. The triangle cannot have 4 sides. The circle cannot be square. Likewise, creation must obey logic's shape. Even omnipotence cannot do nonsense. God cannot make freedom that is not free or goodness that requires no choice. So he made a world where freedom and law coexist in Horus, beautiful, alive. For Leibniz, this made sense of moral life. Our duty is not to escape the system, but to work within it wisely. We are parts that can act with grace toward the whole. When we do good, we harmonize with divine intention. When we choose evil, we introduce dissonance. But even that dissonance can be resolved in time. He trusted that time itself is part of the plan. Events unfold in sequence for beings like us who must learn by motion. God sees all at once. We see in line. We live in chapters. God holds the book. This idea gave him calm. He saw suffering as real, but not final. He saw evil as tragic, but not victorious. He saw knowledge as slow but sure. The logic of creation became his comfort and his challenge. It demanded humility. No mind smaller than infinity can judge the total work. But it also gave dignity. Even our questions, when honest, participate. In truth, he pictured reality as a great chain of being, each link necessary, each link contributing to the strength of the whole. From dust to angels, from numbers to hearts, every piece reflects the wisdom that chose it. The structure holds even when we tremble. He ended many letters with a simple phrase, "Everything is linked." For him, it was not a slogan. It was the quiet joy of someone who found reason deep enough to believe in. To understand Leibniz is to feel his gratitude. The world is not perfect, but it is intelligible. It is not painless, but it is purposeful. In every storm, he imagined a pattern, still intact. And in every moment of clarity, he heard a distant echo of the mind that made it. That echo is the dream of divine logic, a belief that reason is not cold machinery, but the language through which love builds a world. There is a silence that follows disaster. It is not peace. It is the stunned quiet of people asking why Leibniz never turned from that silence. He called it the hardest sound in the world. He said the question of suffering is the question that will not die. If this world is the best possible world, then how can it hold so much pain? Why earthquakes? Why disease? Why cruelty? If a perfect mind built the universe, why are its children broken? He faced these questions without flinching. He did not hide behind words. He looked straight at the horror that others ignored. He saw war. He saw famine. He saw sickness take people before they could finish a sentence. He felt the grief of nations and of single hearts. He said, "We cannot talk about goodness until we have faced evil." He wrote that to justify the world is not to deny its pain. It is to understand how pain fits into a larger law. He called that search the adusia defense of divine justice. But the word cannot carry the weight of what he meant. He was not defending power. He was defending meaning. He believed the world was designed to be the fullest expression of possible good. But fullness includes freedom. Freedom allows choice. Choice allows error. Error opens the door to suffering. Remove the door and you also remove love, courage, and forgiveness. He saw this not as excuse, but as necessity. He said, even God cannot create creatures who are free and yet incapable of harm. To do so would be to make nonsense real. And nonsense cannot exist, even by miracle. Leibniz divided the problem of evil into three parts. First, metaphysical evil, the fact that everything finite is limited. We are not infinite, so we lack. We hunger, we tire, we decay. Second, physical evil, the pain and suffering found in nature. Storms, sickness, disasters, hunger. Third, moral evil, the wrongs we choose, greed, cruelty, betrayal. He said all three are connected. Physical evil keeps the natural order alive. Metaphysical evil comes from being finite. Moral evil comes from freedom misused. Together, they form the shadow that makes the light visible. This idea angered many. It still does. To some, it sounds cruel. To others, too neat. But Leibniz did not use it to comfort himself. He used it to face the worst. He wanted a reason that could hold when everything else failed. He once wrote that even sin can be a part of the divine plan. Not because sin is good, but because it allows a greater good to exist. Forgiveness, redemption, renewal. He did not mean that murder or cruelty were acceptable. He meant that nothing can ruin the possibility of restoration. Even ruin can be rewritten. He said that in the long reach of time, justice is never absent, only delayed. Every wrong will meet its correction. Even if beyond our sight, that faith gave him peace. Not the easy peace of ignorance, but the stubborn peace of someone who refuses to call despair final. He compared life to a painting. Stand too close and you see only dark strokes. Step back and the shadows reveal shape and depth. Without shadow, there is no image. Without contrast, no harmony. In the same way, he believed pain gives depth to joy, loss gives weight to love, and limitation gives meaning to freedom. Still, he did not expect everyone to agree. He admitted that reason cannot erase grief. When tragedy strikes, logic feels like paper in the rain. He wrote that understanding must walk with compassion. To tell a mother her loss is part of a plan is to speak without wisdom. He urged gentleness. In philosophy, truth, he said, is strong enough to wait until tears are done. The Lisbon earthquake would come years after his death, but it would test every word he wrote. Tens of thousands crushed in seconds, churches falling on worshippers, children buried where they prayed. Later thinkers asked the same question again. If this is the best possible world, what does that mean? Leibniz's answer was not denial, but depth. He said the best world is the one that allows the greatest total harmony over all time. Not every moment must be pleasant for the whole to be perfect. Even music contains dissonance. Even storms feed the soil. Even death can renew life. The pattern includes what we would never choose, yet somehow need. He wrote that goodness is not fragile. It bends without breaking. It gathers what is lost and turns it toward purpose. That faith, he said, makes moral life possible. If evil were absolute, nothing we do would matter. If good is deeper than evil, then every act of kindness pushes creation closer to balance. He saw redemption not as magic, but as arithmetic. Every wrong can be balanced by a right. Every cruelty can be answered by courage. Every wound can become wisdom. The process is long, but sure. To him, the presence of evil did not disprove God. It proved freedom. It proved growth. It proved the universe is alive and still being written. He said a perfect world without evil might be possible in imagination, but not in reality. It would be a world without struggle, without virtue, without change. It would be static, a picture, not a life. He preferred a living world with risk and redemption to a lifeless paradise. He spoke often of divine mercy as patient logic. God, he said, allows what he hates to achieve what he loves. A harsh mercy, but a mercy still. Through pain, the soul learns empathy. Through loss, it learns gratitude. Through weakness, it learns humility. Through time, it learns to trust the whole it cannot see. He believed every story ends in restoration. Not because humans succeed, but because goodness, being eternal, cannot fail. What breaks will be mended. What is lost will be found again in a higher form. He saw history as a grand repair, each age moving the universe closer to its intended. Harmony critics said this: faith makes people passive. They said if everything serves a plan, why fight injustice? Leibniz rejected that. He said doing good is part of the plan. We are agents of correction, not spectators. We are threads chosen to repair what is torn. Every act of care completes a fragment of the design. He did not ask people to smile through pain. He asked them to work through it, to trust that effort has meaning, even if unseen, to act as though their courage joins something vast and holy. He believed suffering can purify love. When the self breaks, pride falls away. What remains is compassion. What remains is truth. For him, evil was never final. It was the raw material out of which understanding grows. He wrote that God does not waste pain. It becomes the seed of wisdom, the soil of virtue. In time, the world learns to grow good from its own wounds. He once said the universe is like a mirror. Each soul reflects the whole. When one suffers, the image trembles everywhere. That is why empathy exists. That is why goodness multiplies when shared. It is not a law written on paper. It is the rhythm of being itself. In this rhythm, pain and joy are partners. Loss opens space for hope. Grief carves room for gratitude. Evil awakens conscience. Darkness makes us reach for light. This, he said, is the strange mercy of creation. It allows us to become part of its redemption. We cannot erase suffering, but we can answer it. We can create small harmonies within the greater one. Leibniz died before he could see how deeply his words would divide people. To some, he was the last great optimist before the storm of modern doubt. To others, he was the first thinker brave. Enough to stare at evil and still believe in good. He offered no escape from tragedy, only a way to hold it without despair. He taught that a wise heart can look at pain and still say, "There is meaning here, even if I cannot see it. There is purpose here, even if it waits beyond my reach." He trusted that one day the universe will reveal itself whole, and that every tear will have its place in that revelation. Until then, we live in the shadow. We struggle, question, grieve, and keep going. And in that persistence, in that refusal to surrender meaning, we already begin to prove him right. The age loved wit more than patience. Salons filled with bright talk and bright candles. People wanted answers that sparkled. They wanted laughter sharper than a knife. Into that room walked Voltaire. He lived through exile, censorship, and danger. He hated cruelty and hated stupidity more. He wrote to wake the conscience with shock. He believed the pen should make tyrants tremble. He loved speed. He loved clarity. He loved the clean cut of satire. He heard the claim that this world is the best possible world. He heard it not as careful reasoning, but as comfort for the comfortable. To him, such optimism looked like a rich man's coat, warm, expansive, and blind to the cold outside. He sharpened his reply until it glittered. He created a teacher who spoke in polished certainties. The teacher said that all is for the best. Disaster followed disaster. The teacher smiled through each one. The students suffered. The world burned around them. The smile did not move. Readers laughed, then winced, then laughed again, because the mask looked familiar. This was the power of satire. It compressed the debate into a single gesture, a serene face amid wreckage. Optimism turned into a costume. Faith turned into a habit of denial. The joke spread faster than any book of metaphysics could. Rooms repeated it until it became a proverb. To call someone a defender of the best possible world became a way to call them naive. Voltaire had reasons for his anger. The world around him dealt pain without shame. Censors punished truth. Clergy protected cruelty. Courts humiliated the powerless. He saw victims crushed under systems that claimed to be holy. He swore to break that spell. Satire was his hammer. Another event hardened his case. The earth itself shook and swallowed a city. Churches collapsed onto worshippers mid-prayer. Fires ran through the streets. The sea returned to finish the work. People asked the question that never dies. Where was God? Where was meaning? Where was the best possible world? Voltaire wrote with the speed of grief. He made the pain visible and near. He refused to let philosophy stand at a safe distance. He demanded an answer that could look at rubble and not blink. The attack landed. Leibniz was gone by then, but his idea stood in the line of fire. Most readers did not meet the idea in his own books. They met it in caricature, a smile that never learns, a mind that explains away tears, a heart that calls loss a lesson before the funeral ends. Yet the picture was not the man. The satire cut through denial, but it also cut through nuance. Leibniz did not say that pain is an illusion. He did not say that evil is secret good. He said that the full work of reality may justify the allowance of evil. He said reason, freedom, and law are worth the risk they bring. He asks us to hold judgment of the whole when we only see a part. The difference matters. A foolish optimist says everything is fine. A wise optimist says everything can find its place in meaning. The first silences grief. The second makes room for it and still believes. Why did the caricature win? Because stories beat systems. A one-page scene of suffering will outrun 1,000 pages of argument. Because memory loves images. A quiet teacher smiling at catastrophe stays with us. Logic needs careful rooms. Comedy breaks down doors. There is another reason. The age began to trust the senses more than the schools. Empiricism gathered force. People believed what they could measure and touch. Satire, like a sharp instrument, felt honest. Metaphysics felt distant. Pain felt present. Yet, even Voltaire knew the danger of easy sneer. He fought for justice with stubborn courage. He did not want despair. He wanted reform. He wanted a society that stopped making cruelty sound sacred. For that, he made optimism look ridiculous. What can we learn from the quarrel? First, that clarity is not enough. Arguments must learn to speak in images, or they will be remembered as slogans made by their enemies. Second, that grief demands respect from any claim about the structure of the world. If a theory cannot kneel beside a ruined street, it has no right to stand in a lecture hall. Third, that reason and compassion must travel together, or the public will choose compassion, even if it comes with mockery. Leibniz's view can live with those lessons. It asks for patience, but also for honesty. It admits that satire sees something real, the habit of explaining too soon. His logic rejects that habit. He urged silence when silence is wise. He urged action when action is needed. To repair what can be repaired is not to deny providence, it is to participate in it. Consider the teacher in the satire. What if he had stopped smiling? What if he had helped dig survivors from the ruins? What if he had passed bread, wept with the grieving, and then whispered hope? The joke would have failed, not because suffering ended, but because compassion changed the scene. Real optimism knows how to work. Words can be medicine or perfume. Satire exposes perfume that calls itself cure. Leibniz offered medicine, difficult, slow, meant for the long healing of the mind. Voltaire offered surgery, fast, public, meant to cut rot from the body of society. Both saw a sickness, both wanted health. They disagreed on the treatment plan. The world needs both kinds of skill. We need the wit that alerts the crowd. We need the patience that rebuilds the foundation. Ridicule can wake a city. Reason can keep it awake after the laughter ends. There is a quieter misreading worth naming. Some think the best possible world means the happiest possible world. It does not. Happiness is fragile and often shallow. Goodness is deeper and often severe. The best world is the one that realizes the highest goods in the richest order. Those goods include freedom, courage, justice, and mercy. They bloom in harsh weather. They need risk and time. Another misreading says the idea excuses every crime. It does not. The claim is not that whatever happens is good. The claim is that goodness can make use of whatever happens without endorsing it. A surgeon may use a scar to save a life. The scar is not the goal. The life is. A third misreading treats the view as a call to passivity. If the world is best, why change anything? Because the world includes us as agents. Because the best world is the one in which free creatures wrestle with evil and learn to love. If we fail to act, we withhold part of the world's design. The plan trusts our courage. Satire will always return. It should. Complacency needs a critic. But after the laugh, the work remains. We still need to think clearly and live kindly. We still need to build cities that protect the weak. We still need to teach children that hope is not denial. It is discipline. Voltaire asked for justice now. Leibniz asked for trust across time. These are not enemies. They are different horizons of the same moral life. One fights the day's cruelty. The other defends the reason for fighting at all. There is a scene that binds them. A town after thee. Storm. Neighbors search the wreckage. One lifts a beam. One holds a child's hand. One speaks words that steady, shaking breaths. The critic and the metaphysician are both there. One says, "We must never allow this neglect again." The other says, "Do not give your heart to despair. Goodness still has roads to walk. The town needs both. The future needs both." The story of the idea did not end with a joke. New thinkers rose who tried to carry what was true in both voices. They learned to distrust, lazy comfort and lazy scorn. They asked for reasons that can face rubble and keep their dignity. They searched for a vision of reality that honors law and honors tears. From this struggle, a better understanding of optimism can grow. Not optimism that refuses to see blood on the ground. Optimism that sees it, binds the wound, and still believes. The wound will heal. Not optimism that replaces action with slogans. Optimism that treats action as the very method by which Providence writes the next page. When people quote the satire, let them. It is a warning against glib speech. Answer by living in a way that makes the joke misfit the scene. Serve, build, study. Refuse cruelty. Refuse despair. Let your hope have calluses. A last thought about laughter. It can humiliate. It can also cleanse. Used well, it clears the stage of pretense so truth can speak. Used poorly, it makes cynicism look like wisdom. The difference is compassion. Satire with love heals. Satire without love scars. If the world is the best possible world, it is not because pain is good. It is because good can be grown from pain. By minds and hearts that cooperate with reason and grace. The task before us is simple and severe. See clearly. Help quickly. Hope stubbornly. Voltaire forced that task back into view. Leibniz refused to surrender the ground of meaning. Between them stands the human heart, pulled by grief and guided by thought. It beats through earthquakes and through salons. It looks for a way to live without lies and without despair. Hold that heart steady. Teach it to think. Teach it to love. Then the old debate becomes something else. Not a contest of clever lines, but a common work. A world where wit and wisdom serve the same mercy. There was an earlier critic whose shadow shaped the stage. Bayle argued that reason alone could not justify the ways of God. He collected hard cases the way a lawyer collects evidence. He showed how every neat answer slips on human sorrow. Voltaire learned from that severity. He turned Bayle's cold files into hot theatre. Some readers defend the satire by pointing to memory itself. Our minds keep pain longer than joy. We are built to notice threats. So a theory that asks us to trust long sums can feel false to nervous bodies. Leaning on reason is not natural when sirens are near. This is why the public story stayed with. The joke, it met the heart at its first reflex and did not ask it to wait. Leibniz dreamed of order even smaller than sight could reach. He believed that reality was not built from matter alone, but from something deeper, something alive with perception. He called these entities monads. To understand his vision, forget atoms as tiny pieces of stone. Think instead of mirrors, countless mirrors, each reflecting the universe in its own way. Every monad, he said, is a center of awareness. Each one sees the world from its own position. Each one holds the entire cosmos within a single point of view. There are no windows in a monad. Nothing enters it, nothing escapes it. Yet each unfolds its story according to divine order, like instruments playing separate parts of one song. They remain in perfect coordination without ever touching. He called this coordination pre-established harmony. When one monad changes, others seem to respond, but no message passes between them. Instead, all move together because all were designed to move together. A universe composed like music, not machinery. This idea looks strange now, but in Leibniz's time it was bold and clear. He lived when philosophers still argued whether the soul could move the body or the body could move the soul. He refused the puzzle. He said there is no exchange, only harmony. Mind and matter are two faces of one plan. He saw monads everywhere. A human soul, a blade of grass, a grain of dust, each a tiny world of perception and striving. no being is completely dead. Each has some spark of awareness, some inner pulse of relation to the whole. He ranked them by clarity. Simple monads barely sense, animals perceive and remember, humans reflect and reason. Above all stands God, the supreme monad, whose perception is perfect and complete. Through this ladder, he stitched together all creation. Nothing stands isolated, nothing is wasted. The faintest flicker of being still belongs to the grand order of perception. He compared the body to a living city. Every organ is made of smaller lives. Each cell works according to its own pattern, yet the harmony keeps the body whole. So, he said, the universe is one organism, alive from dust to deity. This vision reversed the despair of his century. Where others saw decay, he saw coordination. Where others saw matter collapsing into noise, he saw a quiet intelligence running through everything. The universe is not a battlefield of parts. It is a community of perspectives. If each monad mirrors the whole, then meaning is never lost. When something dies, the mirror darkens but does not vanish. Its reflection lives in others. Every end becomes a translation, not a void. He found hope in that. To him, the soul survives not by miracle, but by nature. Consciousness is not a spark. That fades, it is the structure of being itself. Modern thinkers sometimes smile at his theory. They call it poetry disguised as physics. But poetry, he might say, was the truer name all along. For he sensed what later ages would test in new language, that observation changes what is observed, that everything interrelates, that the smallest units of the world behave as if they hold knowledge of the whole. He anticipated ideas that would one day appear in quantum theory and systems science. He saw pattern where later microscopes would find pattern again. He guessed that the boundaries between mind and matter might be thinner than habit suggests. He spoke gently of God in this context. God, to him, was not an intruder fixing errors from above. God was the continuous source of harmony, the composer whose music sustains the movement. Every monad follows its inner law, and those inner laws together create the outer world. That meant the universe did not need miracles to keep running. Its consistency was the miracle. The order written at the beginning was enough to carry all. Time forward, he found in this an answer to loneliness. No creature is truly separate. Each stands connected through shared design. When you look at a stone or a tree, you are not facing emptiness. You are meeting another expression of the same source. He believed perception runs on a spectrum. Even when we sleep, our monad continues to dream faintly. Waking only means perception grows brighter. Death is a change in clarity, not extinction. Awareness shifts, but it does not stop. It fades into subtler harmony until it brightens again. For Leibniz, this was not fantasy, it was moral philosophy. If everything is alive with perception, then cruelty becomes ignorance of kinship. To harm another being is to disturb harmony. To live well is to play one's part in tune. He said God chose this structure because it maximizes both order and freedom. Each monad acts from within itself, yet all fit together as if choreographed. From that tension comes beauty, a world lawful but not mechanical, alive yet coherent. He exclaimed time as unfolding awareness. Each monad reveals the world to itself, at its own pace. Moments are measures of perception, not ticks of a clock. Thus, creation is not finished. It is always revealing itself. The universe learns as it exists. He described knowledge as reflection upon reflection. Our minds are monads that can know they are mirrors. That self-recognition is the birth of reason. Through reason, the universe begins to understand itself. He imagined God delighting in that return of awareness, the creation becoming conscious of the Creator, not by worship alone, but by understanding, art, and love. In his vision, science and spirit were not enemies. To study nature was to read the handwriting of divinity. To reason clearly was to participate in grace. Every discovery was a prayer answered in the language of logic. This idea gave him calm. He saw the same unity in motion and in mercy. He believed that if you follow reason far enough, you will find compassion waiting at the end. The harmony of monads was more than theory. It was his philosophy of trust. He trusted that what appears separate is secretly linked. He trusted that disorder hides rhythm. He trusted that understanding is never wasted, even when the world seems deaf. He told a friend that heaven is not another place. It is a clearer view of this one. As perception perfects, reality shines through. The task of life is to polish the mirror. He knew people would mock this idea. He knew some would say that harmony is a dream. He answered softly, if we dream of harmony, maybe the dream itself is proof we belong to it. That answer endures. Modern minds may rename monads as systems, networks, or fields, but the impulse remains the same. To see unity where eyes see fragments, to find meaning in the weave. Of the invisible Leibniz left us that impulse as gift. He asked us to imagine that behind every surface there is awareness working toward light. He asked us to live as if every act of reason and kindness helps the world remember its own design. He once wrote, "The universe is the living expression of a single spirit, each part singing the whole in its own tone." It is a sentence both humble and enormous. It reminds us that the smallest kindness participates in the largest order. To believe that is to live differently, to walk slower, to look longer, to speak with care, to act with the quiet confidence that even our smallest thoughts echo through a harmony we may never hear but are meant to join. Numbers taught him how the world keeps its promise. They did not flatter or shout. They held their line. 2 and 2 made for whether a city rose or fell. Ratios stayed loyal through plague and peace. He trusted that loyalty. He saw in it the temper of creation. He loved the way mathematics lets thought become exact. A symbol stands where a whole paragraph once stood. A sign compresses a movement of mind. You can carry truth across a page in a single stroke. It felt like a mercy given. 2 limited creatures. Clarity delivered in a small shape. Order made portable. He believed God delights in such clarity, not as cold perfection, but as wise generosity. A steady world is a kind world. It lets the patient learn. It lets the humble predict. It lets the broken repair what can be mended. Law becomes a ladder for fragile hands. He listened to nature and heard count and curve. An apple falls in a known way. A planet bends space with quiet insistence. A wave writes its grammar on the shore. Snow builds 6-fold stars from water and cold. Spirals hide in shells and storms. Growth follows a humble ratio. He felt the pull to write these patterns in clean language. Calculus became his chosen music. Small changes add up to large motion. The world moves by steps, almost invisible. The integral gathers them without hurry. The derivative tells how fast a thought is changing. He found peace in that conversation between parts and whole. He believed this discipline was not just a tool. It was a window into the style of creation. The universe is generous with increments. It prefers smooth paths when it can. It allows sharp turns when it must. It composes continuity from countless small decisions. It writes history in careful. Somsey saw beauty and truth as kin. A proof that fits like a key feels beautiful. A theorem that surprises and then seems inevitable feels holy. You step back and think, it could not be otherwise. He believed God thinks in that feeling. The world is the expression of such thoughts. Elegance is not vanity. It is a signature. He loved principles that condense many facts into one sentence. Conservation tells you what never changes while everything moves. Symmetry tells you what remains the same when you turn the scene. Proportion tells you how parts keep packed with each other. These were more than tricks to him. They were hints about the mind behind the world. Unity without dullness. Variety without chaos. He shaped an ethic from those hints. Choose the argument that explains the most with the least strain. Prefer a model that wastes nothing. Accept complication only when reality demands it. He called this respect for reason a kind of devotion. To think carefully is to honor the giver of order. To speak precisely is to love your neighbor he trusted. That divine choice follows similar lines. From all the worlds God could create, the chosen one is not the simplest by count, but the richest by relation. It wastes nothing. It carries the largest goods with the leanest laws. It folds freedom into law without tearing either. He once hinted that God calculates, not as an accountant counting coins, but as a composer balancing voices. You can feel the restraint inside abundance. You can feel the thrift inside glory. That double feeling marks wisdom. It marks this world. He kept returning to harmony. Musicians know a chord can hold tension and still resolve. Mathematicians know an identity can look unlikely and still be true. Farmers know seasons can be harsh and still keep faith. He believed creation holds all three kinds of trust. Time resolves what thought cannot yet reconcile. Reason reveals what feeling could not yet accept. Patience ripens what action could not yet secure. He loved the identity that bears his name. If two things share every feature, there are not two. There is one. The world is not padded with copies. It disdains waste. Even sameness hides a difference in place or relation. Difference is how meaning breathes. He thought continuity is mercy. Change that jumps without bridge breaks, finite minds. Creation walks instead of vanishing and reappearing. That walk gives learning a chance. It gives regret a chance. It gives forgiveness a road to travel. He treasured the link between symmetry and conservation. If a law looks the same tomorrow as today, something will be conserved through time. If a law looks the same here as there, something will be conserved through space. These insights came later in full dress, but he felt their outline. A steady God writes steady invariance. Steadiness feeds trust. he found a serene heroism in measurement. To measure is to refuse despair. It says the world can be known enough to serve. A bridge can stand, a well can reach water, a fever can be counted and cooled. Math becomes charity in action. He warned against arrogance dressed as certainty. Mathematics is exact, but our models are not the world. They are lanterns, not the sun. We test them and we revise. We honor truth by letting it correct us. Humility is the cost of accuracy. Accuracy is the gift of humility. He looked at least effort with interest. Many systems seem to choose paths that minimize waste. Light takes a route that saves time. Rivers widen until resistance balances flow. A pendulum answers to a hidden economy. He saw a moral picture in this physics. Goodness does not puff itself up. It finds the clean line through trouble. He thought mercy works the same way. It cuts extravagant anger. It saves time by forgiving. It spends where help is needed, and saves where pride would waste. He liked virtues that felt like conservation laws for the soul. Constancy, temperance, courage that spends only what duty demands. He linked mathematics and music. Both live by ratio. Both turn repetition into meaning. Both teach the ear to hear structure inside motion. He imagined creation as a score too grand to hold at once. We learn our line and trust the rest. Faith becomes a musician's discipline. He loved binary because it showed how little you need to say much. 1 and 0 can build every number. Presence and absence can speak any count. It made him smile that simplicity births abundance. He thought the universe likes that joke. Small rules, wide worlds. Simple laws, rich lives. He drew ethics from that smile. Be simple where you can. Make room for others to grow. Build systems that help the weak think clearly and act safely. Hide complexity inside good design. Expose clarity at the surface. Let tools carry burdens so people can carry love. He believed education should teach this craft. Not only facts, but form. Show students how a proof breathes. Show citizens how a budget tells the truth or lies. Show rulers how a map hides what it cannot hold. Give a generation the habit of asking for reasons. Give them the joy of finding them. He imagined law, shaped by proportion. Punishment should fit not only the crime, but the goal of repair. Policy should balance parts and whole without crushing either. Economy should honor the poor first, because systems are judged by their edges. These were not abstractions to him. They were the math of mercy applied to the city. He knew numbers can be abused. They can help a lie look clean. He asked for conscience at the center of calculation. Let the heart check the ledger. Let the uncounted be counted before we boast. A metric without meaning is a blade without a handle. It cuts the one who swings. It trusted that truth protects itself in time. A false model fails when the bridge falls. A true one stays standing in wind. Reality is a stern judge and a gentle teacher. It punishes pride with collapse. It rewards patience with endurance. He asked why a perfect mind would choose this particular mix of laws. Because these laws allow the widest garden of goods. They give room for mind to blossom. They give room for love to learn. They give room for freedom to mean something real. Other laws might have made us safe and small. These make us risky and great. He saw prayer and proof as cousins. Both aim at what is most real. Both ask for light and accept correction. Both require silence between steps. Both end in gratitude when the answer comes. He loved that kinship. It reconciled study and devotion. He did not think mathematics could save a soul, but he thought it could train one. It could teach patience, honesty, and courage. It could teach how to lose an error without losing face. It could teach how to stand for a result without becoming hard. It could teach how to admire a better idea when it arrives. He liked the word fit. A good theorem fits like a well-made joint. A good life fits the shape of the good it seeks. A good society fits its people like a careful garment. Fit is not tightness. It is ease without slack. It is purpose without strain. He saw identity as relation, not possession. A self grows by entering worthy patterns. Friendship is a shared ratio. Marriage is a harmony in changing time. Citizenship is a cadence between duty and right. None of this reduces people to numbers. It lets numbers teach us steadiness. He offered a way to navigate uncertainty. When facts are thin, keep hypotheses light. When facts arrive, adjust without panic. Hold principles, not prejudices. Use models as scaffolds, not prisons. Let love set the objective. Let reason choose the route. He loved limits because they guide. Creativity. A sonnet frees thought by binding it. A law frees commerce by stabilizing it. A budget frees conscience by revealing consequence. He saw creation as a sonnet of laws written by joy. Inside that sonnet, freedom writes its own story. The rhyme is real, so is the choice. He believed the deepest goods are relational and learned. Justice learned in courts and homes. Mercy learnt in loss and return. Wisdom learnt in mistakes. They were not final. Numbers could help such goods flourish by restraining folly. They could not replace them. They could serve them. He taught that truth loves company. Different disciplines carry pieces of one answer. Invite them to the same table. Let physics and ethics speak. Let poetry and policy argue without contempt. The best solutions will feel musical, not mechanical. They will hum with coherence. He ended many reflections with a calm trust. The world will not break its own rules, and the rules, being wise, will not break the world. We may break ourselves against them, or we may learn to move with them. That learning is the work of a life. That movement is the dignity of a mind. If you want to feel his faith, try a small experiment. Prove a simple identity by two methods. See them meet like friends at a bridge. The meeting brings a quiet joy. That joy is what he felt when he looked at existence. Different paths, same truth. Different laws, same mercy. He believed God delights in such convergences. They show that the many can become one without losing their names. They show that freedom can keep rhythm with law. They show that beauty is how truth looks when it is loved. Numbers taught him this. They still teach us. They do not erase grief. They give it a place inside meaning. They do not remove risk. They measure it so courage can be wise. They do not make us gods. They make us better creatures. He left a way to think that steadies the heart. Look for the pattern that wastes least and serves most. Seek explanations that honor both detail and whole. Let elegance guide you, but let compassion rule. Prefer clarity to cleverness. Prefer repair to victory. Prefer truth to pride. This is the divine equation as he felt it. Not a single formula, but a posture. A way of seeing the world as a work of careful art. A way of living that joins precision too. Kindness. A way of hoping that believes order is generous, and that the mind, taught by numbers, can become an instrument of peace. Modern life tests every grand idea. Factories thicken the air. Wars circle the globe in hours. Signals race faster than thought. Hope becomes a headline and fades by noon. This is the world that asks the old question again. Is meaning large enough for the age of speed? Leibniz once trusted harmony behind events. He believed reason anchors reality. He believed order holds even when hearts break. Modern minds did not grant that easily. They saw storms that mocked every tidy plan. They saw machinery build comfort and cruelty at once. They saw empires preach ideals and export pain. The 19th century trained the Tao. Darwin described life as struggle and change. Nature showed tooth and hunger in plain light. Earthquakes and plagues looked impersonal, not punitive. Chance seemed to guide as much as law. The old picture shook on its nails. Was this the best world, or only a hard one? Other voices pressed the wound. Dostoevsky asked if any future joy could justify a child's tears. Nietzsche accused optimism of hiding fear. He said, "We invented heavens to excuse our weakness." He declared God dead and asked who would carry the weight. Camus stared at absurdity and urged revolt without illusion. The 20th century put a fist on the table. It demanded reasons that could look into an open grave and still speak. 2 world wars answered with smoke. Cities burned from the sky. Camps turned people into ash and numbers. Tyrants marched under banners of progress. The word best felt obscene. If harmony exists, it was too quiet to hear. Yet even in ruins, reason did not die. Science mapped the atom and the star. Medicine pushed death back from many doors. Law learned new words for human dignity. Artists grieved on canvas and in sound. Communities rebuilt, brick by honest brick. The storm did not erase the mirror, it cracked it. The pieces still reflected light. Leibniz would have told us to look closely at those shards. Do not worship them, use them. A broken mirror still shows the face of truth, if turned the right way. Our age must learn that craft. Modern science changed. The tone of order. Determinism softened into probability. Chaos theory showed how small nudges grow into wild weather. Entropy taught us that systems drift toward dispersion. We measured noise and found pattern inside it. We measured pattern and found it tinged with chance. Order and uncertainty learned to share the same room. This does not kill optimism. It matures. If the world is lawful and yet open, then freedom has room to matter. Then wisdom has work worth doing. Then prudence becomes a daily art. We manage risk. We design redundancies. We seek policies that bend danger without breaking spirit. The moral field also changed. Colonialism taught bitter lessons about pride. Dressed as purpose, movements for civil rights named evils that law had blessed. Voices long silenced learnt to speak and to lead. Optimism now must choose humility. It must listen before it claims to understand. It must prove itself by service, not by slogans. This is where Leibniz can still help. He never argued for denial. He argued for structure. He taught that meaning can run deeper than the storms on the surface. He asked us to look for reasons wide enough to hold grief without breaking. He asked for patience fit for centuries. Consider. Technology, we taught silicon to mimic thought. We wired billions into one trembling web. Tool and weapon share the same code. We need a vision that keeps courage steady, a vision that respects limits and still invites invention. Leibniz would ask for design that serves persons, not markets alone. He would ask for clarity, audit, and a restraint. He would ask us to build systems that protect the small and check the strong. He would tell us to place conscience in the loop. Consider climate. We learned that prosperity can poison its own future. We must measure, plan, and change habits at scale. An optimistic ethic here is not cheer. It is duty. It says the whole can be repaired if the parts act together. It says truth and sacrifice can be taught without despair. It says the garden still answers to patient hands. Consider meaning in a secular home. Many now live without prayer. They still feel the ache for order and mercy. They still long for justice to make sense. Leibniz offers a language that welcomes them. He lets reason carry hope without forcing doctrine. He invites faith to speak softly in the cadence of explanations that work. He lets the universe be intelligible without becoming small. A deep challenge remains. Can we say best after Auschwitz? Can any harmony answer that dark choir? The only honest way forward is through labor, care for survivors, guard against repetition, teach the habits that prevent cruelty when fear reases. Any philosophy that does not serve this work has no place here. Leibniz would agree. He would ask optimism to earn its name by protection of the vulnerable. The old debate about evil now includes scale. One person can harm millions with machines and lies. Freedom therefore needs form. We must bind power with law and law with transparency. We must design defaults that protect even when leaders fail. This is structure as mercy. It is exactly the kind of wisdom he praised. The modern mind also wrestles with self. We are flooded with images and opinions. We confuse performance with character. We confuse speed with meaning. Leibniz would counsel slowness of thought. Begin with first principles. Ask what a human person is for. Ask how goods fit rather than compete. Ask what can be measured and what must be loved without measure. He would praise small communities that practice truth, schools that teach reasoning with kindness, courts that value restoration over spectacle, churches and civic groups that protect conscience and neighbor alike. He would prefer many modest repairs to one noisy triumph. He would say that harmony grows by local fidelity. He would also invite courage, not loud courage, the steady kind, the kind that keeps its promises under pressure, the kind that returns the wallet and refuses the bribe, the kind that speaks for the unseen worker and the silent child. This courage is the rhythm of a best world. It makes free order a daily. Fact. Modern philosophy explored despair with skill. It mapped the absurd. It measured nausea in honest sentences. It deserves respect. But despair cannot build. It cannot raise children or bury dead with hope. It cannot design a bridge or a constitution that lasts. Optimism, rightly shaped, can. It does not promise ease. It promises purpose that survives. What about randomness? Quantum events look lawless to untrained eyes. Yet we use them to build tools with perfect reliability. We average uncertainties into stable effects. We draw strength from statistics. This is harmony by large numbers. The world allows trust to rise from noise. That is not far from Leibniz at all. What about pain that teaches nothing? There is plenty. Accidents without lesson. Loss without growth. We must be honest about this remainder. No theory can harvest meaning from every corner. Here humility is the proper tone. We grieve without lecture. We sit with the broken and say little. We let our hands speak what logic cannot. A best world, if real, gives space for silence and for care. Many today practice hidden goodness. Nurses in long corridors, teachers in tired rooms, programmers writing code that prevents harm, parents holding the line for a child's dignity. These are harmonies in plain clothes. They do not erase evil. They limit it. They do not complete. Just as they prepare its way, a fair reading of our time finds both failure and fruit. We have become efficient at harm. We have also become better at rescue. We discovered vaccines in record time. We built networks of aid after storms. We learned to name trauma and treat it. We wrote new laws when old habits broke lives. It is not enough. It is not nothing. Leibniz would call this the work of the middle. We live between promise and completion. We carry pieces of the whole without seeing it. We serve goods whose full harvest we may never witness. That service is not wasted. It becomes part of the calculation that only love can finish. The storm still speaks. It says power corrupts. It says suffering spreads. It says meaning is fragile. The mirror answers with a quieter voice. It says order persists. It says goodness gathers. It says freedom can learn. The future will judge us by how we balance these truths. We must not excuse evil by citing plans. We must not deny plans because evil shouts. We must build with the patience of gardeners and the caution of engineers. We must teach children that hope is a practice. It is a way of working, not a mood. If this is the best possible world, it is not because it is safe. It is because it can be saved again and again by people who choose to join the order written under things. Best does not mean painless. It means fruitful. It means capable of growing truth and love even after winter. So the mirror and the storm continue their dialogue. We will live inside it. We will argue and reconcile. We will fail and repair. We will keep asking whether reason can hold when grief arrives. And we will keep finding that, though reason bows before tears, it reases with them and goes back to work. This is how optimism survives the modern test. It learns from critics. It listens to victims. It adjusts its claims to honor what history taught. It does not give up the belief that reality is worth understanding and worth serving. It becomes courage with a plan. When we grow tired, remember the small proofs: a bridge that stands, a medicine that heals, a law that shields a stranger, a song that steadies a room. These are evidence that meaning still breathes through matter. They are the daily harmonies of a world that can be redeemed. Let that be the measure of best for our time. A world where repair is real, where truth can win in the end, and where love outlasts fear often enough to keep the story moving toward light. The world wakes before we do. Light pushes across stone and leaf. Birds risk song before they know the weather. Somewhere a nurse ties her shoes. Somewhere a factory siren starts the day. Somewhere a child asks a hard question. Is life worth this effort? The answer will not arrive as thunder. It will arrive as breath, as the sound of someone getting up again, as the quiet of a mind that chooses to trust. This trust is not naive. It does not deny pain. It does not pretend evil is useful or kind. It says only this: meaning is deeper than harm. Order is stronger than accident. Freedom can learn. Love can rebuild. The claim that this is the best of all possible worlds is a heavy one. It is not a boast. It is a promise about the structure of things. It says the laws of being and the gift of freedom together make a world fit for the highest goods, not the softest goods, the highest ones. Wisdom, courage, justice, mercy, joy that survives whether a world built for such goods cannot be simple. It must be alive with risk. It must allow failure without surrender. It must give time enough for repair. It must teach souls to become partners in their own redemption. Look at the shape of growth. A seed becomes food by dying into soil. A heart becomes strong by bearing weight. A mind becomes clear by letting go of flatteries. We grow by passing through trouble, not by stepping around it. The path does not excuse the pain. It turns pain into passage. If this world is best, it will show its quality in recovery. Not in how little we suffer, but in how much goodness can rise after we suffer. Not in how seldom we fall, but in how many can stand again with help. Not in a lack of storms, but in towns that learn to shelter each other when storms return. There is a phrase worth repeating. Nothing is wasted. Our failures become warnings. Our losses become guardians of what remains. Our grief teaches their hands their duty. Even our ignorance, once seen, becomes need that knowledge can serve. Providence is not a billboard. It is a long arithmetic that refuses to stop at a deficit. If meaning runs beneath events, we have work to do. We must design laws that help truth keep its footing. We must build institutions that make cruelty expansive and care efficient. We must make room for conscience to act without fear. We must teach children how to reason and how to forgive. We must protect time for prayer or reflection, because silence is where the mind learns its scale. A best world is not automatic. It includes us. It expects our help. We are part of the calculation. We are the agents by which many goods arrive. When we refuse that role, pieces go missing. When we accept it, the design strengthens in places no ruler can see. Notice the small proofs that hope is not fantasy. A vaccine made in months rather than decades. A stranger pulling another stranger from dark water. A judge who listens longer than the room expected. A city that plants trees where heat once punished the poor. These are not miracles against law. They are miracles by law. They show a world willing to be healed by patient minds and willing hands. Some despair will say, this is only human effort. Yes, and the claim is that human effort belongs to the plan. Law and freedom are not enemies. They are the two rails on which history can move. The rail of law keeps the track true. The rail of freedom gives the train a destination worth reaching. Let us speak about justice. A best world cannot mean a world where the guilty escape and the innocent are forgotten. It must mean a world in which justice is possible and ultimate. Some justice is human. We must pursue it with courage and care. Some justice is beyond us. We must trust it will arrive without our permission. Either way, justice is not a rumor. It is the core of meaning wearing the clothes of time. Now speak about mercy. Mercy is not a loophole in justice. It is justice. Seeing further, it is repair chosen over revenge. It is space made for return. No structure is best if it cannot forgive. No person is best if they cannot be forgiven. A world sized for mercy must allow failure and return. Tears and change, limits and love. Hope becomes strong when it is trained. Training means habits. Tell the truth. Keep a promise. Protect the small. Pay what you owe. Return what is not yours. Say sorry and mean it. Learn and teach. These are not slogans. They are the daily joints of a good life. They are the simple ratios by which a person fits the world. If enough people hold these habits, the world changes. Not by spectacle, by compounding. Trust compounds. Kindness compounds. Knowledge compounds. Justice, once begun, accumulates defenders. Mercy, once practiced, multiplies its own courage. The sums take time. The result outlives us. This is the arithmetic of a best world. The fear remains. What about the evil that looks pointless? The grief that taught nothing? The accident that left only silence? Here we must be honest. There is a remainder our language cannot gather. We do not explain these things. We witness them. We hold one another through them. We refuse to turn them into lessons while wounds are open. We let our silence be faithful. We let our service be speech. Then, later, we remember what our hands learned. We build guardrails where there were none. We change a rule, a road, a ritual. We honor the dead by protecting the living. A best world does not hide from the remainder. It carries it with honor and lets it change our designs. The claim that meaning is deeper than harm asks something from us. It asks us to refuse cynicism. Cynicism looks like wisdom because it never risks hope. It says no before it listens. It calls love naive and courage performative. Leave cynicism to the tired. Choose realism alive with duty. Count costs. Face facts. Then do the next good thing. Let us talk about the soul. If each person is a mirror of the whole, then every dignity matters. Care for one becomes care for many. When you give attention to a single mind, you honor the order that made minds possible. When you protect a single child, you protect the future fact of justice. When you forgive one enemy, you write a new sentence in the story of the world. This is how greatness works here. It does not arrive with trumpets. It arrives as a quiet refusal to let meaning die in your small circle. It arrives as the choice to be a reliable link in the chain. It arrives as ordinary faithfulness over years. A best world is built by that kind of stature. It is measured by that kind of patience. Some will still ask, why this way? Why not a world without death? Why not a world without hunger or blame? Because certain goods require real edges. Gratitude needs loss to feel its depth. Courage needs danger to be honest. Compassion needs wounds to be more than a word. Freedom needs consequence to be real. Without these edges, we would live in a gallery, not a garden. Nice to look at, unable to grow. Others will ask, why trust any of this? Because the alternatives collapse. If the world is nonsense, reason has no home. If the world is only power, love is a costume. If the world is only accident, duty is a trick. Yet we live as if reason, love, and duty are real. We build laws and hospitals and promises as if they mean what they say. We cannot live the denial consistently. Our lives betray our deepest beliefs. Let our words match our works. This trust does not belong to one religion or one city. It belongs to anyone who treats truth as a home. It welcomes prayer and welcomes study. It lets doubt ask its questions and invites it to work. It lets joy rest without guilt. It lets grief speak without shame. It makes room at the table for the weary and the brave. Walk through a day with this posture. Begin with quiet. Thank the giver of order, whatever name you use. Set one clean intention. Do one difficult kindness early. Ask for correction. Offer it gently. Finish a task completely. Leave a tool ready for the next hand. In the evening, count the mercies without neglecting the wounds. Sleep as a steward, not an owner. Repeat now, lift your eyes and widen the scale. Cities can live this way. They can measure what matters and invite truth to shape budgets. They can count the unseen labor that keeps homes alive. They can plan for floods and heat with love for those at the margins. They can make rules simple and serve the spirit, not the lobby. They can be honest about failure and quick to repair. Nations can live this way. They can hold power slowly. They can bind leadership with law on example. They can choose honor over spectacle. They can protect dissent and demand decency. They can aim their strength at mercy rather than display. They can tell the truth about the past and make amends. A planet can live this way. It can treat atmosphere as covenant. It can treat oceans as inheritance. It can treat species as neighbors. It can build a future worth giving to children whose names we do not yet know. This is not utopia. This is work. Work is how a best world shows itself. What of death? It will take all of us. Even so, it need not take our meaning. If the soul endures, it carries what it learnt further on. If the soul ends, its gifts remain in those it shaped. Either way, love outlasts the body. Either way, goodness continues its calculation. Either way, we are not wasted. Stand for a moment. At the window, watch a late bus stop. Watch someone run to make it. They catch the door. A stranger steadies their step. A small cheer rises inside you, though no one hears it. That is hope, remembering its reasons. That is meaning proving it still knows the route. The phrase best of all possible worlds is easy to mock. Leave the slogan to the careless. Keep the substance. The substance is a way of seeing and a way of living. It is the decision to treat. Reality is intelligible and worthy of fidelity. It is the courage to answer evil with repair. It is the discipline to prefer justice to victory. It is the mercy to forgive without lying. It is the patience to plant trees whose shade will bless people you will never meet. There is a promise humming under all of this. We are not alone. We belong to an order that cannot be broken, only resisted. We can join it in thought and in action. When we do, we feel the world receive our effort. Sometimes with quick fruit, often with slow change. Always with the quiet rightness of a key turning true. The final word is not argument, it is invitation. Build something that lasts. Reconcile where you can. Protect someone who will never know your name. Learn until your pride melts into gratitude. Love until your fear learns to rest. Trust that the goodness under things is not fragile. Trust that your smallest faithful act is part of a vast design. Trust that, beyond our sight, the story closes in joy. If the world is truly best, it is because goodness wanted partners. It is because freedom deserved a worthy stage. It is because love asked for a world that could answer back. Here we are. Answer well. Trust begins small. It begins with a kept promise. It begins with a door held open and a bill paid on time. It begins with honest numbers in a quiet ledger. From there, it grows. It builds the shape of a life that other people can lean on. It turns strangers into neighbors and neighbors into friends. This is how meaning becomes daily. This is how a best world shows its face. The idea sounds large. It must be lived small. The mind that designed galaxies also designed mornings. So begin there. Rise with one clean intention. Decide one task worth doing for the sake of someone. Else, give it your full attention. Finish it without show. When the day closes, test your heart for peace. Then begin again. Repair is the heart of the work. We are not asked to erase history. We are asked to mend. Mending is humble. It respects the shape of what was. It listens for how parts want to meet. It does not force. It persuades. It uses patience. Where power would only tear, repair starts with truth. Tell the truth about the wound. Name what broke and who broke it. Facts come first. Without them, peace is only a pause. Truth is not cruelty. It is care shaped like a sentence. It says, here is what happened. Now let us see what justice asks. Justice is not a slogan. It is a craft. Punishment alone cannot raise a community. Revenge cannot build a bridge. Justice seeks safety, repair, and return. It asks how to stop harm, how to heal victims, and how to shape change in those who caused it. It weighs the whole. It sets a course that allows tomorrow to be kinder than. Today, mercy walks beside justice. Mercy is not weakness, it is vision. It looks beyond the moment and sees what a soul can still become. It leaves a door unlocked when wisdom permits. It gives a chance that pride would not give. It is not blind. It is brave. Build habits that make repair likely. Keep records that tell the truth. Design processes that invite accountability without humiliation. Teach meetings to begin with listening. Write policies that a fair mind can respect. Keep rules short enough to remember and clear enough to apply. Make exceptions rare and transparent. Let people know what will happen before it happens. Predictability is respect in practice. Care for time. Calendars decide what matters. If love is always scheduled last, it will never begin. Choose margins. wide enough for thought and for rest. Use them to read, to walk, to hold a child, to write a clean line of code, to cook a meal that warms more than one person. Time given to what is good returns as strength. Guard attention. You are not a furnace for other people's noise. News can inform or consume. Know the difference. Limit the flood. Choose deep sources. Check claims. Let silence wash your inner room each day. Clarity enters only when the room is clean. Practice speech that leaves dignity intact. Say less when anger swells. Ask questions that lean toward understanding. If a debate makes you clever and cruel, step back. Reread your aim. A win that hardens. Your heart is a loss. A loss that teaches you respect is a gain. Choose the gain. Make work that lasts. Build for maintenance, not for display. Name things plainly. Write comments that teach. Design for the next pair of hands. Return tools to their place. Leave a map. Someone will bless your name when you are gone. Treat money as a moral material. Every budget tells the truth about a soul. Spend on what protects and repairs. Cut what flatters and wastes. Pay the invisible labor that makes public success possible. Reward patience and honesty more than drama and speed. You will lose applause and gain sleep. Honor the edgiers. Systems are judged by how they treat those at their margins. Design with the elderly, the child, the stranger, and the poor in mind. If a rule harms them, rewrite it. If a road isolates them, reroute it. If a form confuses them, simplify it. If a fee excludes them, remove it. That is what best requires. Practice restitution. When you break something, repair it. When you cannot repair, replace. When you cannot replace, serve. Apology without action is only sound. Action turns sorrow into promise. Learn a craft. A craft trains patience inside the fingers. It teaches you to measure twice and cut once. It teaches you to accept the limits of the material. It trains respect for reality. When the joint does not fit, the wood is not wrong. Your cut was, try again. Craft makes virtue tactile. Study something that humbles you. Mathematics will do. So, will a language you do not yet speak? So will music played slowly and true. Humility learned in one domain follows you into others. It protects you from the lie that certainty and contempt are kin. Practice gratitude as discipline. Name 3 mercies each night. Let them be small. The cup that did not spill. The bus you barely caught. The message that arrived with a kind tone. Gratitude trains the eye to notice order still at work. It does not blind you. It steadies you. Teach the young. Teach them to think, to doubt, to test, and to love. Train their eyes to see patterns and their hearts to prefer mercy. Give them stories where courage is quiet and real. Let them practice responsibility while the price of failure is small. Set examples that make virtue look like freedom, not prison. Practice forgiveness and distinguish it from permission. Forgiveness releases a debt. It does not erase a boundary. You can bless and still say no. You can love and still leave. Let your boundaries protect what you are called to guard. Keep faith with the dead. Tell their stories fairly. Honor their achievements without hiding their flaws. Let the truth be whole. Memory without honesty becomes propaganda. Honesty without memory becomes neglect. Hold both. Walk toward the suffering that is yours to meet. You cannot carry every cry. Carry the ones assigned to your reach. Bring water. Bring bread. Bring a plan. Bring a second plan. Stay until the work is handed safely to another. Practice civic hope. Vote with care. Volunteer where the city leaks dignity. Run for a small office if you can. Study the budget. Attend the meeting. Champion clear laws. Demand fair enforcement. Be patient with the pace of the possible and stubborn against cruelty. Choose clean pleasures. They leave no debt in the soul. A long walk. A page that lights the mind. A song that brings back courage. A table with friends. A well-cooked meal. These make room for conscience to breathe. Welcome correction. Invited. Make it safe for others to tell you the truth. Reward the person who saves you from a mistake. Say thank you with more than words. Return the favor. Let your work on a scale. Some tasks fit a day. Some require a decade. Know the difference. Do not demand the thrill of the urgent from the patient labor of the important. Protect long projects from the hunger of applause. Quiet custody achieves what noise cannot. Keep promises to yourself that improve your capacity to serve. Sleep enough. Move your body. Eat food that gives tomorrow strength. Leave screens before they steal your morning. You are a steward of a mind and a body on loan. Care for them as you would care for a tool trusted by many hands. Practice clean. Exates, end meetings on time. End arguments when they stop yielding light. End roles when your gifts no longer fit the need. End days with a small ritual that thanks and releases. Good endings protect good beginnings. Make room for art. Art trains attention to notice and to cherish. It keeps cynicism from sealing over. The heart. It lets grief speak without harming. It lets joy rise without gloating. It renews imagination, which is foresight in tender clothes. Let mystery stand where it must. Not every why will bow to you. There are rooms you may enter only by reverence. Stand there without hurry. Say little. Call the moment holy if the word fits your mouth. Then go back to work with a clearer mind. Keep your circle honest. Choose friends who will not sell your conscience for your comfort. Choose partners who can be trusted with your silence. Choose colleagues who prize truth over tribe. If you lead, build a room where the quiet speak first. Protect dissent that seeks the good of the whole. Give away credit. Praise in detail. Name the person who did the unseen task. This is how trust multiplies. This is how teams become more than the sum of their parts. This is leadership without theater. Steady your spirit against despair. Despair likes to sound like realism. It is not. It is a shrinking of the map. It hides resources and partners and second chances. When it speaks, ask. For evidence, when it cannot provide it, return to the work. Be ready to start over. Plans fail. Lives break. Markets turn. Begin again with what remains. Begin again with who remains. Begin again with lessons learned. A best world is a school built for many new starts. Keep an altar of remembrance in your mind, not to worship pain, but to honor what it taught. Let the altar hold names, dates, and debts you will not forget. Visit it when pride reases. Visit it when fear reases. Let it return you to gratitude and resolve. Prepare a legacy that can be carried by ordinary hands. Write clear notes. Make guides. Record passwords for the right people. Teach someone younger how to do what you do. Make yourself replaceable. It is a gift to those who come after and a guard against your own vanity. Live as if small faithfulness is the unit of meaning, because it is. The world is not saved by crescendos alone. It is saved by steady rhythm, by the repeated act of care, by the daily choice to add one stitch where the fabric thins. If the world is truly the best possible world, it is not because it saves us from duty. It is because it trusts us with it. It hands us tools and a pattern and says, join. The pattern is large. We will never see it whole, but our section can be clean. Our seam can hold. Let the final measure be simple. Did you tell the truth? Did you keep your word? Did you protect the small? Did you forgive and seek forgiveness? Did you build something that made goodness easier for those after you? If so, you stood with the order under things. You helped the world choose its better name. Go on then, work with hope, rest with gratitude, begin again. This is repair. This is how love becomes structure. This is how structure becomes mercy. This is how mercy becomes a world worth waking to. Night settles over familiar streets. Windows hold small islands of light. Somewhere a train passes, steady as a pulse. Someone washes a single cup and sets it to dry. Someone turns off a lamp and waits for sleep to come. In these plain moments, the question returns without ceremony. Was any of this worth the day it cost? We answer not with thunder, but with choices. We answer by the work our hands remember. We answer by the care that outlived our mood. Meaning reveals itself in the keeping of small promises. It shows itself when no audience is near. It grows in silence and greets us like a friend. Leibniz believed a perfect mind chose this world. He said the choice honored reason and honored love. He said the choice made room for freedom to matter. He trusted that nothing real is finally wasted. He trusted that justice is slow and exact. He trusted that mercy is strong enough to rebuild. We have walked through his vision with open eyes. We have seen war and famine and grief. We have seen laughter used as a blade. We have watched satire mock what it half understood. We have watched faith speak too soon and be rightly rebuked. We have tried to keep what is true in both voices. Now the film grows quiet and returns to one life. Yours, the world will not ask. You for speeches. It will ask for attention and for steadiness. It will ask for honest words and clean work. It will ask for the courage to stay kind when anger is cheap. The best world, if real, is not a luxury. It is a discipline that begins. At the edge of your reach, help where you stand. Repair what you can touch. Protect whoever is within your power to protect. Let that be your prayer in the language of action. You do not need certainty to start. You need a reason strong enough to move your feet. Begin with the person in front of you. Begin with the task that serves without applause. Begin with the truth that refuses to be convenient. Begin again tomorrow when fatigue returns. Remember what this vision asks of the mind. Ask why this and not something else. Test your stories against the world they describe. Let correction be a gift rather than a wound. Let humility be the partner of every claim. Let gratitude be the closing line of every day. Remember what this vision asks of the heart. Hold grief without rushing its lessons. Hold joy without gripping it to death. Hold enemies as people before you hold them as positions. Hold yourself to standards that do not bend for mood. Hold to hope with a grip that respects facts. Remember what this vision asks of our common life. Write laws that fit the vulnerable. First, design systems that explain themselves to the tired. Reward patience and the courage to revise. Punish cruelty with clarity and restraint. Invite dissent that seeks the good of the whole. If this world is chosen for the greatest harmony, then harmony is not a metaphor. It is the work of arranging goods without destroying others. It is the art of balancing present need with future. Right? It is the skill of saying no to what flatters. It is the wisdom of saying yes to what strengthens. You will fail in this work. Everyone does. Failure is not the end of your sentence. Return is allowed and expected. Apologize without performance. Repair without delay. There will be pain that teaches nothing you can name. There will be loss that leaves only quiet. Do not lie about it. Sit beside it until it changes shape. Let compassion be the language you speak when words fail. Let presence be the answer you give to questions without answers. There will be days when despair sounds like a friend. It will call its self-realism and ask you to put down your tools. It will point at history and say, nothing changes for long. Answer with the evidence of your own hands. Answer with the neighbor who is fed, the child who is safe. Answer with the bridge that still stands and the promise still kept. You belong to an order deeper than chaos. You are not equal to it, but you are allied with it. Each time you choose truth over ease, you join it. Each time you forgive a debt with wisdom, you join it. Each time you think clearly in the service of love, you join it. Each time you build what future strangers will trust, you join it. Perhaps this is what it means to live inside a best world. Not to float above sorrow, but to put sorrow to work for good. Not to escape risk, but to spend it well. Not to demand certainty, but to keep faith with reason and with mercy. Not to seek control, but to cultivate consent and care. Not to chase spectacle, but to finish the quiet task. Look again at the ordinary scene. A streetlight burns over an empty corner. A nurse finishes her shift and walks into grey dawn. A janitor locks a school and hums a tired hymn. A coder closes a ticket no one will notice but the next shift. A parent checks on a sleeping child and remembers to breathe. These are not background. They are the foreground of meaning. They are the hinges upon which the large doors turn. They keep decay from calling itself fate. They keep cruelty from deciding the story alone. They are the grammar of hope. Leibniz would smile at such grammar. He would see law and freedom cooperate in small rooms. He would see order write mercy into policy and habit. He would see intelligence choose restraint and design for repair. He would call it reason doing what it was made to do. He would call it love, teaching reason its aim. You will not know in this life how your efforts sum. The ledger belongs to a sight you do not have. Do not wait for that sight to begin. Act as if meaning is real because you cannot live the opposite. Act as if love matters, because it already has. Act as if tomorrow needs you, because it does. If faith fits your mouth, use it. If prayer steadies your hands, pray. If study steadies your mind, study. If service steadies your heart, serve. The tools differ, the work is the same. Bring order, guard, dignity. Leave beauty where you can. Learn. To bless without permission. Bless the engineer who built the quiet bridge. Bless the farmer whose field feeds your city. Bless the teacher who answers the stubborn question again. Bless the clerk who knows your name when the line is long. Bless the friend who tells you the truth before you fall. Learn also to resist without hate. Resist the lie that numbers excuse. Harm. Resist the pose that cynicism is wisdom. Resist the habit of turning people into categories. Resist the speed that ruins judgment. Resist the appetite that treats others as scenery. Keep an eye for signs that the world receives your work. Watch for the meeting that ends with understanding. Watch for the process that becomes kinder and more exact. Watch for the child who trusts. The room enough to ask harder questions. Watch for the elder who rests easier because a policy changed. These are quiet proofs that the deep order remains. You will stand at graves. Bring flowers and silence and time. Let the names be spoken with care. Let the stories be told without embellishment. Let the tears fall without apology. Then walk away. Slowly and return to the work. The dead do not ask us to stop. They ask us to carry what they loved. One day you will be the one carried in story. Make it easy to tell the truth about you. Leave debts settled and kindness owed to many. Leave a journal someone can learn from. Leave a room in better order than you found it. Leave a trail of people who became more honest because you were near. If you doubt your place in any grand design, remember the scale of the small. Ants move forests one grain at a time. Rivets hold ships against oceans. Votes turn empires with paper and ink. Words mend marriages when they are simple and sincere. Hands save lives. That statistics cannot name. So choose your handful of grains. Choose your rivets and your words. Choose your vote and your craft and your promise. Choose them like a person who believes the ledger matters. Choose them like a citizen of a world that intends the good. Choose them like a student of a mind that wastes nothing. When morning comes, rise with one sentence ready. Today I will join the order under things. Let that be your vow. Keep it as best you can. Forgive yourself when you fail and begin again. Teach it to others without pride. Receive it back from them when you are tired. This is the quiet proof that Leibniz trusted. Not a theorem written on marble, but a life that answers despair with patient structure. A home put in order for guests. A budget that tells the truth and protects the poor. A law that binds the strong and frees the weak. A habit of attention that notices the person left out. If this is the best world, it is because it invites you. It invites you to think with care and to love with discipline. It invites you to build, forgive, and try again. It invites you to hold both reason and mercy in the same hands. It invites you to be the kind of person for whom the phrase best world is not a boast, but a responsibility gladly assumed. Night deepens. The windows darken one by one. You turn out your light and keep one promise more. You will begin again. Tomorrow, You will keep faith with the living and the dead. You will serve meaning without spectacle. You will honor the order that lets love endure. Sleep now. The world keeps its watch. The harmony does not stop when you rest. It waits for you to join it again. And when you do, it will meet you where you stand, with work enough for your hands and grace enough for your heart.